As a high school senior, my teenage rebellion wasn't against the world, but squarely aimed at my family. I wasn't a bad kid, just a typical punk when it came to them. They were loving, but I was too cool to hang out, especially with my little brother, Jake, who was a decade younger. Our age gap felt like an evolutionary divide. Family trips usually meant the ocean, a quick 5-hour drive from home. But this year, they decided on Maine. Don't get me wrong, adult me would cherish a return, but 18-year-old me saw it as a cruel and unusual punishment. Looking back, I admit I was a complete garbage human, a real punk. We arrived at the house, and it was incredible. A Stephen King novel come to life, fitting for Maine. It was a colossal white house, framed by deep, dark trees, with unsettling green shutters that seemed to watch us. My dad even quipped, "This is how most horror movies start, isn't it?" Probably not the best joke for a 10-year-old, but Jake, like me, was captivated. Inside, the house was a labyrinth. The sprawling living room at the back offered a breathtaking, yet somewhat ominous, view of the forest. The rest of the house was a bewildering network of hallways, intersecting in ways that defied logic, like a glitch in a video game simulation. But the hallways weren't the weirdest part. No, the weirdest part was the small, adjoining house where the property owner, Hugh, lived. Hugh was peculiar. Tall, perpetually adorned in a sweat-stained bucket hat, with teeth the color of old corn. But it wasn't his appearance that unsettled me. It was his personality. He was a boisterous, eccentric man, overly friendly, constantly emphasizing how kind people from Maine were. My family politely humored him. He assured us he was next door if needed, but otherwise, we wouldn't see or hear from him all week. We weren't thrilled about essentially sharing a house with him, but what could we do? My family resolved to make the best of it. I, on the other hand, made it my mission to be the worst, constantly demanding to go home. The first morning, over breakfast, my parents announced a great hike. I flat out refused. After a brief argument, they relented, leaving me alone while they, and Jake, ventured into the woods. My real reason for staying wasn't just rebellion. I'd just started dating Danny and wanted to text her. I knew the trail would be a dead zone, so I ditched my family for a high school girlfriend. I was describing the house to Danny, sending her pictures of its bizarre layout. When I mentioned the adjoining house, she didn't believe me. I promised a video as proof. At the end of one hallway was a door. I filmed myself telling her that Hugh's house lay beyond it. She still doubted, so I decided to open it. To my shock, the door wasn't locked. Even more unsettling. This unlocked gateway to Hugh's domain was right next to my bedroom. The thought of sleeping beside an open invitation to a stranger's home sent a chill down my spine. Still on FaceTime with Danny, I cautiously stepped inside Hugh's house. It was just a small, unremarkable space. A couch, a TV. Nothing spectacular. Then, a distinct sound. A door shutting somewhere deeper inside. Panic seized me. I bolted, scrambling back to our side of the house. Moments later, a knock. It was Hugh, still cheerful and goofy. He asked why I was recording his house. I stammered a lie about being lost, but he saw right through it. He wasn't mad, just knowing. He explained he had cameras, triggered by the door opening. He'd seen me, phone flashing, exploring his living room. The truth spilled out. He chuckled, making a weird comment about nobody in Maine locking their doors. I mumbled an awkward goodbye and fled, locking our connecting door with a definitive click. Maine might have lax security, but where I came from, you locked your doors, then checked twice. Danny's voice, full of trepidation, echoed my own fears. "Don't trust him," she urged. "Protect yourself." I dragged a heavy wooden chair to the door, jamming it against the frame, a makeshift barricade. When my family returned, I relayed the unsettling encounter with Hugh. They were more annoyed by my trespassing than concerned about his creepiness, though I still yelled back at them. Barely an hour later, they announced dinner out. Again, I protested, and this time, still irritated by the Hugh incident, they didn't fight me, promising to bring food back. Not long after they left, the sun plummeted, plunging the world into a blackness so profound it felt suffocating. Hours crawled by. I was on the couch, texting Danny, when a thunderous crash erupted from the end of the hall, near Hugh's door. I shot up, my mind racing. That sound. It could only be the heavy wooden chair, knocked over. Hugh. He was trying to get in. I crept towards the hallway, desperate to catch him in the act. The darkness at the end of the hall was absolute. I flicked on the light. The chair lay overturned. Beside it, a backpack. Not mine. Terror surged. I ran to the screened porch, locking the inner door, then the screen door to the outside. It wasn't a fortress, but it offered a precious few moments if I needed to make a move. I huddled in the fetal position under a patio table, utterly paralyzed. My phone, of course, was still in the living room. Footsteps echoed from inside the house. Slow, deliberate, not frantic. An eternity seemed to pass. Then, the familiar headlights of my dad's van pierced the oppressive darkness, pulling into the driveway a mile down the road. I sprang up, screaming at them to stay in the car, my words a frantic, unintelligible jumble. Just then, Hugh appeared from the shadows, and I nearly collapsed. He leaned towards my dad, his previous cheerfulness replaced by a grim earnestness, asking to speak privately. I tried to pull my dad back, but he waved me off. Hugh's body language screamed that something was terribly wrong. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. My dad shook Hugh's hand, then turned to me, his voice tight. "Get in the van. We need to go now." Jake looked bewildered, and I could see the raw fear etched on my dad's face. My dad sped away from the house, pulling into a grocery store parking lot a mile down the road. Minutes later, several police cruisers screamed past, sirens wailing, lights flashing, heading towards the house. We all clamored for answers, and my dad, finally, told us everything. Hugh had also heard the crash. His camera, triggered by the impact of the chair hitting the door, had alerted him to movement. He initially assumed I was trying to get into his house again, a misguided high school prank. But when he checked the footage, he saw nothing. A gut feeling, a cold dread, compelled him to invade our privacy and check the camera he had in our hallway. It was too dark at first. Then I flipped the light on. He saw the overturned chair and the backpack, which he still thought might be mine. But just as he was about to turn the camera off, a tall, bald man emerged from my bedroom. A man Hugh knew wasn't my dad, and certainly wasn't me. The intruder grabbed the backpack and retreated back into my room. Hugh had immediately raced outside to help me, only to see me lock the screen door and duck for cover. He was smart enough to know I wouldn't have believed him if he'd tried to explain. So he hid in the front yard, a clear vantage point, just in case the intruder tried to escape or confront me. He didn't want to sneak in through the adjoining house and potentially alert the man, risking my safety. The moment my family returned, he told my dad everything, and that's why we fled. We'd been in the parking lot for only a few minutes when Hugh called. The police had chased the man into the woods but hadn't caught him yet. He told us to stay put. He would gather our belongings and bring them to us. We spent that night in a hotel, driving home the next morning. If I hadn't been such a spoiled kid, stubbornly staying behind, things could have unfolded catastrophically. Months later, my dad contacted Hugh. They never caught the man. Even with all Hugh's cameras, they never figured out how he got in, or what his intentions were. Maybe he was just a homeless man seeking shelter. That's what I told myself, trying to sleep at night. But sometimes, the most terrifying encounters aren't face-to-face. Sometimes, the scariest people are just hiding in plain sight. In moments of fear, uncertainty, or danger, reciting Ayatul Kursi acts as a powerful shield. It reminds us that Allah is the ultimate protector over all things. Recite it after every prayer, before sleeping, and when leaving home. No harm can touch you when Allah's protection surrounds you.